fabled heat, where magic meets desire. Subscribe to ignite the fantasy.
The difference wasn't a whisper, it was a scream that tore through the silent symphony of the mundane. It hadn't been a gradual awakening, but a violent shattering. I wasn't merely sensitive, I was a raw, exposed nerve flinching at the world's emotional currents. As a child, these manifested as phantom echoes, fleeting whispers of joy, sorrow, anger, brushing my consciousness like the faintest breeze. I dismissed them as an overactive imagination, a child's tendency to fill silence with stories. Mother had called it empathy, a gift, but it felt more. It felt like asterisk receiving something, not just understanding it. But at 21, the echoes became a tidal wave, crashing into me with the force of a raging storm. It was the Soulbound siphon, a phenomenon whispered about in hushed legends, dismissed as old wives' tales meant to frighten children. I'd read about it in dusty, forbidden texts, stories of individuals inexplicably linked to others, their emotions and even physical sensations intertwined. I'd always believed it was myth. Until it hit me like a jolt of pure, untamed lightning, searing through my veins, leaving me breathless and trembling. The air crackled around me, a static charge raising the hairs on my arms. My vision swam, the familiar scent of lavender from the small sachet I always carried suddenly overwhelming, cloying. I was lost in the throng of the market, the air thick with the exotic smells of spices, cinnamon, cardamom, something musky and unfamiliar, and the tang of sweat and unwashed bodies. The noise was a physical pressure, a cacophony of bartering voices, the bleating of livestock, the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer. I'd been searching for a specific shade of indigo dye for my embroidery, a small comfort in a life that felt increasingly unstable. Then a wave of foreign emotions slammed into me. It wasn't a gentle wash, but a brutal impact. Raw fear, cold and paralyzing, burning anticipation that felt like a fever, and a thread of desperate longing so profound it stole the air from my lungs. It coalesced, a swirling vortex of sensation, nearly driving me to my knees. My vision blurred, the vibrant colors of the market stalls, the ruby reds of pomegranates, the golden yellows of turmeric, the deep greens of leafy vegetables, melting into a chaotic swirl. I staggered, clutching the rough edge of a vendor's cart laden with dates for support, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The wood splintered under my grip. "Careful there, girl," the vendor barked, his voice rough. I mumbled an apology, barely registering his presence. My entire being was focused on containing the onslaught, on not collapsing into a heap on the dusty ground. It felt like my mind was being stretched, pulled in multiple directions. And then I saw them, across the square, near the fountain where children splashed and laughed, oblivious to the turmoil within me. Cale, the outlaw whose name was synonymous with sin and shadows. He was leaning against the stone base of the fountain, his dark hair falling across his forehead, obscuring his eyes. Even from this distance, I could feel the weight of his reputation, the dangerous allure that clung to him like a second skin. And beside him, Aaron, a silent shadow of barely contained power. He stood rigidly, his posture betraying a coiled tension, his gaze sweeping across the crowd with an intensity that made my skin crawl. He was beautiful in a stark, unsettling way. High cheekbones, a strong jawline, and eyes the color of storm clouds. Their eyes locked onto mine. It wasn't a casual glance, but a deliberate, unwavering stare. And in that instant, the truth was undeniable. We were bound. The Soulbound siphon had chosen us, and the consequences were terrifyingly clear. A jolt, sharper than the first, ran through me, and I knew with a sickening certainty that my life would never be the same. Each day intensified the connection. It started subtly. Cale's heartbeat, a slow, deliberate rhythm, began to echo in my own chest, a phantom percussion that followed me everywhere. I tasted the bitter edge of his desires, a craving for power, a simmering rage, a loneliness that resonated with my own. It was intrusive, violating, and yet compelling. I found myself anticipating his presence, searching for him in the crowds, drawn to the darkness coiled within him like a moth to a flame. Aaron was different. His emotions were more contained, but no less potent. His gaze, often averted, would suddenly snap to mine, sharp and possessive. He watched me like a hawk guarding its territory, his eyes narrowed as if trying to dissect the nature of our connection to Cale and to him. It felt like an examination, a probing of my very soul. I could feel his frustration, his impatience, his struggle to understand what was happening. He radiated a cold, controlled power that both frightened and fascinated me. They were both drawn to me, their desires a potent mix of pleasure and danger. Cale's was raw and demanding, a primal hunger that threatened to overwhelm me. Aaron's was more subtle, more calculating, a slow burn that promised a different kind of torment. I was caught in the midst of their hunger, a pawn in a game I didn't understand. My own longing, a burning flame that had always smoldered beneath the surface, threatened to consume me. I found myself replaying their gazes in my mind, analyzing every nuance, every flicker of emotion. Was it merely the siphon forcing this connection upon us, or was there something more, a spark of recognition, a shared history I couldn't recall? Yesterday, Cale had brushed past me in the marketplace, his hand lingering for a fraction of a second on my arm. The contact sent a shockwave through my system, leaving me weak and trembling. I'd caught a whiff of his scent, leather, smoke, and something wild and untamed, and I'd felt a flicker of something akin to comfort. It terrified me. Today, Aaron stood across the street, watching me as I haggled with a fruit vendor. He didn't approach, didn't speak. He simply watched, his presence a silent weight pressing down on me. I felt a strange protectiveness towards him, a desire to shield him from the world's harshness. It was illogical, irrational, and utterly unsettling. I am unraveling. The siphon is not just connecting us, it's fracturing me, blurring the lines between my own emotions and theirs. I fear losing myself completely, becoming nothing more than a vessel for their desires. And yet, a part of me, a dangerous, reckless part, is eager to see where this connection will lead. I am caught in a web of shadows and desire, and I have a feeling that escape is no longer an option.